How are we doing, folks? Daytona carb day today, so pull the carbs off the other week. I have pulled the bowls off just because I wanted to tip all the crap out of that was inside them, but we're just going to open them up now and just see. I mean, they look pretty grim just by taking the float bowls off, but I'm sure it can be cleaned up. I don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, so it's going to be manual cleaning. So let's have a look. Should be there somewhere. So left and right, I've put them in their own little trays. So I have removed the float bowls because they were absolutely minging whatever was inside the fuel tank. Very bad inside, but they haven't got the stay up floats. They've got the nylon floats, still go okay with no problem with the ethanol, and they have got the Viton tipped float needles, so they're gonna go back if they clean up okay. So float chamber, no worries. So now the main bodies. I've left the choke slides on the bike, so springs are okay. And if I just pull the slide out, so needles are on the bottom setting and I can't feel any wear marks on them. I am going to clean them up, obviously. Up to now doesn't look too bad. So the relationship of the float into the body, so if I just slide that back in, and you can move, you can hear that there is a little bit, but actually not too bad. Not too bad. There's a bit of wear there, but generally not too bad. So the identification marks on the bottom, so they're obviously off the 622s. Oh, and I don't think that's right. Number 4s. I've already written down the values. So the slide cutaways on a 622 for a 4-stroke should really be 3s or 3.5s, and that's a 4. So I don't know why that's in there actually, because they're generally 2-strokes, aren't they? Not that I'm a 2-stroke fan. Or maybe the later Bantams probably had the 600 series, but anyway, let's keep going. So question mark over the slides. So the main jet and main jet holder. So let's go for the main jet. So 5/16 AF or 8mm. Let's get it where I can stop it from rocking. Yeah. And just let me get my super glasses whenever I put them down. According to the manual, the main jet should be a 150 or a 160. And we have a 130. You won't be able to see that, will you? So there, that's not the right main for this setup. God, this stink as well, that fuel. Let's keep going. The jet holder, this is Whitworth, so it's quarter Whit. Pretty tight. plenty of crap inside there. So again, that would be on the emulsion holes are blocked, can't see through them, so I need to clean those out. So if I hold the body, then my 5/16 AF should be able to take the needle base out jet. And they should be a 0.106. So what's on there? So if I give it a rub with a cloth. Oh, we're okay. 106. Doesn't feel too bad, just want to clean up. Okay. So, pretty badly furred up. So let's pull the throttle stop slide out with the appropriate screwdriver. Feel a bit manky, obviously the O-ring has failed. Yep, O-ring's falling apart. Falling to bits on the way out. Looks okay. Not that it's going to make much difference at this stage, but I'll just see whereabouts the air screw is, the pilot. So half, one, I'm going to call it 1.5. Just so I've got the start point when they go back. But the seat looks good on that. Very good, in fact. So the O-ring's gone. So if I just put that, mark that up. Pen. So we're on the left. .5 turns, start point. And okay, not a great deal else to check with this. The emulsion tube stack inside looks okay, and so we've got an issue with the main jet size, which I don't think is correct, and also should they have number 4s in there. I would have thought 3.5 or 3s, but that will do for the left. So the other, and it looked like someone's homemade the gasket, but it's gone anyway. So let's throw everything back in the left-hand tray. Float heights we've got to do when we build it back up, but a clean first. Let's swap them over. And I just thought, while I've got the two together, you know, there is a massive difference between this is a 928 or a 930. This is a right-hand 930. You know, look at the difference in size. It just seems strange that if you had a 250 a Starfire single, it would have a 928, which is the same body as a 930, just 2mm smaller on the hole down the middle there, and 500 twin, so carb for each side, 250 cc's. Weird, but there you go. But you don't often see the two of them together. But one hell of a difference in size. Right, that one out of the way. Back to this one. So same again, I pulled the float bowl off just to drain the crud out of it. That's tight. That's tight. Just have to give that a little pull with a pair of pliers. Come on, out you come. Yeah. Same again, the looks like it's had water in there. But again, we've got the Viton tipped valve, which is good. No water or no fuel or nothing inside the float, so the floats will tolerate ethanol. So that can be cleaned and go back, no problemo. Same again with the main jet. Oh, there's spring. I've just compared the lengths. The springs left to right. Not that it makes a great deal of difference, but yeah, one is a little couple of mil longer than the other, but yeah, they're going to be fine. So, 5/16 AF or 8mm. Oh, tight little monkey. Gotcha. Again, 130. Would that be right? 130. I don't think it is right. I'll recheck the what's in the book for this engine. But yeah, 130s. Okay. I'll just write those down. 130. Left and right. So let's have a look at the slide needle first. Again, the needle is just got the fur growing on it. Just wants a light, very light clean up, gentle clean up. There's no step or anything in there. Feels quite nice. Again, we're on the bottom notch, which is lifting the needle up to the maximum, suggesting that it's, you know, they need to try and get as much fuel in there as possible, because maybe 130s are too small. Anyway, let's keep going. Oh, tight. God, it stinks, that. I can see through the emulsion tubes on this one, but still obviously needs a good clean. So let's just remove it anyway. God, they're pretty tight for a bit of brass. So the jet holder looks okay, just manky. And it is a 106, which is supposedly correct. Feels not too bad. Just needs a good clean. So let's have a look at the slide. A little bit of wear in there, not too bad. Slides quite freely. bit of wear on the back. It's generally there and bottom there. Bit more scarring on this one. And this one's a number number 3. So that's this shape here, isn't it? So that is definitely not good. So that's the difference in a 3 and a 4. So I don't know why they've got odd ones in there. That's a deeper cut on a 4 than a 3. So I think maybe 3.5s or 3 should be in there, but obviously I can't put that back like that, can I? So the 3 was in the right hand carb, the 4 was in the left. Okay. Body doesn't look too bad. Just wants all the fur removing out of it. Let's just see where the pilot is. Going in. Half. Ooh, 1. So that's only 1 revolution. Half, 1. So right. Okay. Screwing out a bit easier, but oh yeah, the O-ring's just falling apart. Just a bit of crud on the seat is going to clean up, no problem. This one's new O-rings. And the throttle stop. Just a new O-ring and a clean will be fine. So looking at the bodies don't look too bad. I'm just looking at the height of that emulsion tube stack. I don't know if you can you catch that in there? It just looks high. So, or is it my eyes? Can you catch that on the camera? Just let me quickly measure those. That doesn't look right somehow. So if I just go onto the top, going onto the body, .9, and that one is the left, so 3.9 on the left. Just make a this one just looks high, that's all. So same again, facing that way. Just bring it down till it touches. He said. .14, that is. That just looks high to me. And I'm just wondering, let me just write that value down, right. 5.14. I'm just wondering if this is off a 2-stroke with that number 4 slide on it. Especially with it being a right hand side one, because the right hand side one generally is all for all the single cylinders, and it's only when you see the right-handed carb on the right-hand side for a twin. So I'm just wondering if this is off a two-stroke. I mean, you can get these come out. You just warm them up, and you can tap those out. I think I might just tap them both out. I mean, that one would be right, because you're not going to get, mind you, I don't know whether an aerial arrow twin would have twin 626s on it, two-stroke. Anyway, clean up first, but definitely an issue there with that emulsion tube stack, and also not happy about the slides being different, but there we go. Anyway, that's it for now. So I'm just going to clean everything. I'll do a little bit more research, and got to do obviously the float heights. So I'll set something up for the float heights, and we'll be back shortly. Okay, so a bit of time's passed obviously since I stripped because the carbs, because I've now got ordered a few bits and pieces. Got a couple of carb kits, gaskets, O-rings, etc. 2 new 150 main jets and 2 new slides. These are 3. I couldn't get 3s. I know we had a 4 in one and a 3 in the other. These are 3.5s, but obviously now they're exactly the same. And we had the issue with the little emulsion tube. Just see if we can get it in the shot there. The little stand-up down there, the brass stand-up which goes around the outside of the emulsion tube. We had different heights, one to the other. Well, I removed the one which was extremely high, and I went off the same height as we thought was standard, and I turned it down and put it back in. You just need to warm the carb body up a little bit. I used a heat gun just to this stuff expands a little bit more than the brass. It came out in the lathe, turned it down and just drifted it back in. So hopefully now these are identical. So I've also done the faces, just lapped them in. They were quite badly curled up where they'd been over tightened against soft gaskets. Obviously extreme cleaning, and what I'd use is, if you get a stainless steel wire brush, let me find the other one, and you, I don't know if that should pick up, if you pull a strand out of a stainless steel wire brush, they kind of like folded in half, you pull one and 2 pieces come out, you straighten it, you end up with an extremely tough bit of wire. I wouldn't advise you to use copper strands, because you're going a long way into the body of the carb, and if you put a copper strand in there and it gets stuck in the part where the fine drilling is, it's easy to break off. If you break off a bit of copper wire down inside there, you're not going to get it out lest you drill out the plug, and I don't know. So best to use either like a strand of a bicycle brake cable or something, or wire brush I find's perfect, and these were absolutely clogged solid. So I'm just going to lower this down a little bit so you can get a better what's going on, if I can. Okay, so what's going on in here is we've got this hole here, that one's blanked off, this one matches up with one in the float chamber, which goes all the way down, so you've got whatever level of fuel is in the carburettor is in that passageway. Both sides are the same, but obviously the float chambers are ambidextrous, left or right doesn't matter, but it just uses one of the tubes dependent on whether it's the right or the left hand carb you've got. So the matching tube in the float chamber goes into here, and then that is drilled through the back of the carb here all the way down to the front, but not all the way through, and then a plug's put in. So we've got a passageway with fuel from there to there. Then on this side you've got the pilot jet here, where the pilot jet screws in against the little seat here, and this is where the air comes from to mix with the fuel. So in the back of the Venturi you've got the small hole on this side, and that one goes all the way through and meets up with where the pilot jet seat is there. And obviously the more you wind the pilot jet seat, the pilot jet in or out, is dependent on how much air is going to be drawn with the fuel from this passage here. But at this point here there's the very, very small drilling which controls the fuel ratio amount, so that you can get the adjustment on the pilot jet, and it's right down in here, it's just there. So you need your piece of stainless steel wire, and if you feel around you'll struggle at first because there's normally fur growing in there, you know, as the aluminium or Zamac or whatever it's called now starts to try to go back to its original state. So I've got the length of it there, and if I pull that out you can see that it goes past that point and up to the plug in the back of there, and that's the only way you're going to know that you've got it, is when you can get some small piece of wire all the way through. And the right hand side one was solid, but I did manage to get it free, so that is absolutely clear now. So I have another one of these which is bent over with a little 90-degree on it, because at the front of where the Venturi is, might catch it down there, I don't know, probably not, with a torch maybe. If we can catch it, let's see if we can get it. There's two very small ones down here. Can we get it? No. Oh, maybe you can just at the top of the shot there. And they go into where this little core plug is here. And when the slide is all the way down, you've got one side on this side of the slide and the other hole is on this side of the slide. So dependent on whether it's all the way down or starting to lift, you've always got a passageway through there. And when it's been drilled, they put this little core plug in afterwards, so your little 90-degree piece of stainless steel wire brush can actually go in there, and you can make sure that both of those are clear, which they are. And then what I generally do is I generally put my finger over the pilot hole, and with the carb cleaner I spray into this hole here, and you should be able to see that the carb cleaner comes out from those two small holes. Then you know that you've actually cleared the very small drilling here at this crossing point. So they're done, and I'm very happy. They're clean. All the galleries are spot on. I've airlined everything out, and I've been through it all with carb cleaner. So the last bit now is getting the float heights correct. I've done this one, and it was way out. What should happen is, if you put your your needle seat back in, your float pivot and the float, if you just hold the pivot down without touching the float, and you press in front of the float just here, you should end up between 60 and 80 thou from the top of the float to the top edge of that face. And that's how you control the float height on these Mark 1s and some of the early Mark 2s. The later ones have got what's called a stay-up float, and the float's made out of some composite which doesn't absorb fuel, and obviously lighter than fuel, so it floats. So even if it punches, it can't fill up and sink. But they've actually, instead of using it all in one moulding, from here back over where it lifts the little valve up and down is stainless steel, and you can bend the tang in one direction or the other to get your, well, it's between 60 and 80 thou float height from the top of the float to the edge of that rim. So I'm just going to do the left one, put my special bits of wire away. So I've already done the faces on these as well, lapped them in. These tend to bend up a little bit where the screws go, because the gaskets are soft and someone winds them in and over tightens them. But the needle seat itself, this little brass piece, so where's our white on tipped needle jet valve? That sits in there, and obviously when the float lifts, it closes it off, and when the float drops, it lifts it off its seat and allows fueling. And that height is more critical, obviously, on something with twin carbs, because you've got to get them exactly balanced. So you need them exactly the same if it's possible. So this brass seat in here is just to press fit in this Zamac material, and you need to make yourself a couple of little tools to play around with it. So you need to make something that could drift it downwards. So this is just a little bit of brass which I've turned down that fits in only the top part and doesn't touch the valve seat, so can tap it gently that way. And the other end, where the fuel inlet is, there is a very small hole at the bottom. In fact, I'll tell you what size it is. Size is 3.2 millimeters, whatever that is in imperial. I haven't got a clue. I'm having a look at the chart. So this one, and you have to grind the back away a little bit if you use a bit of, this is just a bit of silver steel, because the hole is biased right to one side, and that then will go and sit on that bit of brass, and you can tap it in that direction. So what we do is we drop the needle and the float, the valve and everything in there, and I have a couple of bits of wood. I've had to make another one because the 900 series obviously slightly bigger, but it does work, this. So you have to be careful when you're gripping it It's very soft, easily broken, easily twisted. So I can grip it like that. So I'm just going to drop this in the vise, then I'll spin you around. And the other thing I do is I screw the the banjo fitting in. If I need to tap it in one direction downwards, that I'm not putting any load on anything that I shouldn't be. So I put a bit of bar in the bottom of the vise, so I'm tapping down on something solid and not bending anything. So I'm just going to put this in the vise and I'll spin around. Okay, we're in. So if I just see if I can move this. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit, you get a better angle maybe. So we're in there, and you need some pointer to, if I get out of the way. So I'm holding the pivot down now, and you press there, and if you look where that's stopping, even without measuring it, the float level in this one is excessively high. It's actually above the face of the body of the float chamber, so that's way out. So I need to tap that up this way before I can even start to measure it, because it's just so high. So let's lift this out. Just remove this. Spin your back. So you probably could do this without warming it up, but if you warm it, it does make life a bit easier. Just going to drop you down. So you just need to warm up in that area. I mean, you probably could use a little blow butane torch, but you don't need to get it that hot to make it move. So I just generally use a hot air gun, so you need a glove. And once you've warmed it up, it stays hot for quite some time, because like aluminium pans, they're a good conductor of heat, even though maybe not a lot of Ali in there, but zinc probably the majority of it. So I've got a hot air gun, and I'm just going to warm that. Doesn't take much. And obviously if you use a hot air gun, there's no chance of you melting anything like you might do if you use a little propane torch. That's going to be more than enough. So, with our 3.2mm diameter bit of, I can go there, just bring it back in the shot, and you can feel it go, and that's racing. That's all it needs, hardly anything. So if I'm going to put this back in the little jig, and back in the vise, then I'll spin you around. Raise you up a little bit. And obviously you don't want to put too much heat into it, because you've got a Viton tip on the end of the valve. So now I'll have to hold it down with something else now, because that's going to be warm, isn't it? So I'm holding it holding the pivot down, and now I'm well below. If you look at that. So what we do is we can measure it, and what I generally do is this is just a depth micrometer. So if you put that on the edge so that the ridge is against that back face, and I can look in there, it's way off. Way off. You can hear the tone change when you get the height right. Just touching now. So that is it's 110, so I'm way out. So without burning my fingers, out he comes, and you can feel it go. Did it move then? Back in. Bit of messing around, I know, but if you can get the float heights exactly the same on both carbs, then obviously it's going to be easier to balance them. And I've gone too far. Oh no, I've not. Just that might not too bad. I'm on it there. Okay, what's that? Seven 72, so could do with it just up a little bit more, then I can get it exactly the same as the other one. It's probably close enough, but if I can just get it a tad more, I'll be very happy. It's still warm. Felt it go then. It's a little bit laborious, but it's worth playing around with. Obviously not as critical on a single carb, because you can just start to lift the needle up or down, and you're only doing individual settings on one. But so I'm just on it there now. Maybe a tad more off. That's it. And 68, the other one was 70, so I'm not to tooth there, that'll do. So that is good. So let's just bring you back. Still quite warm. So the new slides, you just have to make sure that they go and drop down, and this, they obviously have got no play in there now. It's lovely. Everything slides nice and freely. I've put out the kit, new O-rings on the. I checked the seats. The seats are good on the Pilot, and that obviously that's just the stop for the slide to adjust the tick over. But what I have done is, because I'm now going back, I've taken 130s out and I've got 150s going back in. Then on the, you've got the 3 positions on the needle. I'm now going to start in the middle position, and both needles are the same. I didn't check them right at the beginning, but they are the same. Hard to see on here, but you've got your 3 notches for the clip, but above it there's 2 small bands, and these bands also relate to different shapes of this taper. So it doesn't say, I've had a look in the parts book, it doesn't tell you whether it should be a 2 band, a 3 band or whatever, but they're both 2 bands, so they are both the same, so the profile of that taper is going to be the same. So the start point for us on this is going to be the middle slot, because okay, I probably have lowered the float levels because they were both excessively high, but we've increased the jet size from 130s to 150s, so I'm hoping I'm within the range. And obviously I can always drop it down one or drop it up one, whichever way we want to go. So in the emulsion tube, obviously where the needle runs or sits, is this one, and this also has a couple of very small holes in there to allow the air to mix with the fuel as it comes up, because if we look at the where the main jet sits, we had this one, this hole, which is going to carry fuel from the float chamber through that hole across there, air into there, but this one's going to allow air to go straight into where the emulsion tube sits above the main jet. And they're both 106s, which was the correct size, so that can go in first, and it was the Whitworth spanner for that, and a 5/16 AF or 8mm, because it's the same, 8 and 5/16, just a nip, and then we can spin it over and put our 150 main in the other end. And give it a nip. That's all it needs. That can now sit in there. Again, just a nip. So we can drop the pilot screw in. New O-rings are already fitted. I think the O-rings serve 2 purposes. One is it stops air being drawn down the side of the screw, but also it stops them vibrating loose and moving. So the start point's all the way in till she touches, and don't go mad winding it in. She's just touching, so half, 1 and a half, and that's the start point for that. Then we can put the slide screw in, or slow running, or whatever you want to call it, the one which is going to lift and raise the slide. And I just, as a start point, just get the screw flush with the body. So we're on the way. So we know that everything is right here. So we've got our carb kit and new gasket. It's obviously only going to go on one way, which is that way. And I have also cleaned all the screws and the threads, and with the brake cleaner, carb cleaner, or whatever you want to call it. Get the appropriate screwdriver. And again, don't go berserk, because all you're doing is bending. It's only thin there. You're only going to bend up the material where you crush the gasket. So just a nip, so they don't vibrate loose. Good enough. So again, in the kit we get the small fibre washer, which hopefully is going to fit over this banjo. Yep. And then the filter itself becomes the gasket. They do actually send you a couple of gaskets, and I've never been exactly sure. I've never used them actually, because they never seem to be fitted anyway. These have got both the same inside diameter, but one has a slightly larger outside diameter. Not big enough to go over there, but big enough to sit underneath. The broad one is anyway. So I don't know, maybe there could be a use for it if you know, this is damaged and lost a bit of height, as they sometimes do with over tightening, where the middle gets crushed in. But in this case we're okay. So obviously all cleaned up, hairlined, that in there, that through there. And because the carbs sit slightly apart from each other at the back, then obviously the wings in this case face forwards like that. And super fine thread, be very careful you don't cross it starting it. And again, just a gentle squeeze, don't go mad. I can't do much with this until I get the throttle cables in, but I can drop the needle in and I can drop the slide in. Drop the spring in out of the way, and there we are. So same with the other one now, and I've just got the fuel tank to do, and then hopefully I'll be seeing if the engine will run in a couple of days time, and if it does run, hopefully hoping that it's going to sound nice. I've got oil pressure, there's no knocks, bangs or whatever, and we're not smoking. So the carbs now ready to be dropped on, and we'll catch you in the next one.